It is a business that involves parents, children, and the brains behind the transaction process. At Senya Beraku in the central region, child trafficking tops the charts in the trade in West Africa. I visited the community and I found out that despite the criminality of the trade, every week at least 5 children are internally trafficked from Senya Beraku, often to the Volta Lake to fish. As I headed towards Senya Beraku, a fishing community in the central region, I kept wondering if truly parents and guardians sell their children or wards to traffickers in Yeji and other fishing communities in the Volta region. My thoughts were never far from the fact that Senya Beraku is one of the worst child trafficking hubs in Ghana, where children are peddled from the town to the Volta Lake or into the town to fish, and those who serve as child laborers. Some few hours after the rising of the sun, I reached the fishing community, which is about a 2.5-hour drive from the capital city, Accra. From house to house, I probed further, looking for answers to my questions on child trafficking in the community. It was a thorough search, and out of a good number of people who confirmed that some children at Senya Beraku are being sold into slavery for a fee of almost 500 Ghana cedis to work on the Volta Lake, only 2 women, 52-year-old Ama Oriele and a fishmonger, Madame Dorothy Dugan, were confident to speak on camera and recounted some bizarre circumstances of the heinous crime.
Recently, a woman was arrested and sent to Nsaon prison for selling her 7-year-old son for 300 Ghana cedis.
Stories of maltreatment of children who are victims of human trafficking on the Volta Lake are quite terrifying. Madame Oriele recounted heart-wrenching stories from victims fortunate enough to be rescued and sent back home.
I cry when rescue victims from Yeji who are between the ages of 6 and 12 tell their stories. They are maltreated and beaten with both arms. Others are also thrown into the Volta Lake.
Madame Dorothy Dugan said, although parents who sell their children into slavery are heartless, poverty, lack of economic and infrastructural development in the community are major drivers of the act.
Most parents in this community struggle to make ends meet because apart from fishing, there are no jobs here.
On my way to the fishing area at Senya Beraku, I spoke to some fisher folk who raised concern about lack of jobs in the community, making it unbearable for breadwinners to cater for their families.
We hope government introduces more jobs into the community.
With all the issues raised by the residents in the community, the report that over 70 to 80 children between the ages of 6 and 14 trafficked from Senya Beraku each year to communities along the Volta Lake could be possibly true. Well, if children in the community are truly sold into slavery, what is the fate of the children who work on the sea? Could they be child slaves, child laborers, or perhaps working for their fathers? Eager to find answers to these questions, I continued my journey to the fishing area. I disclosed my identity as a journalist and began to interact with the fishermen about their work. The conversation went well until my questions about the children they work with were turned down. I walked along the shores with a young man who prefers to remain anonymous and, for the purpose of the story, would be known as Kankam. Kankam, who had no knowledge of his surname, tells me about the daunting task involved in fishing and being on the sea from 3 a.m. to 5 p.m. when his day ends. Kankam, who could not tell me his age either, but assumed to be in his early teens, has had no education. According to Kankam, he started fishing when he was 5 years old and now works with 20 other young boys who are from Senya Beraku and other neighboring communities in the central region of the country. When I asked who he was working for, Kankam was not sure whether he was working for his father or a slave master. My persistence yielded no positive result, with reports of children being trafficked into the community or sold to slave masters at Yeji. Kankam might be working for his father or a slave master. It is already midday at the fishing area in the community. Fishing boats crafted from giant trees bob about on the water, anchored close by, with others on the shore. This is where hundreds of the local fishermen make a living. Although on Tuesdays nobody goes fishing, activities do not come to a standstill along the seashore. Both the elderly and children between the ages of 4 and 10 were busy mending and preparing the nets for the next day. Other fishing boats were on the sea as traps for crabs and other types of fish. Back from the sea, this boy, after performing all manner of tedious tasks with the elderly while fishing, helps to bring the fishing boat to a stable condition. After a few moments, the same boy was paired with another young boy who might be 10 years old to mend the net and prepare for the next catch. Just like this boy, who might also be working for his father or a slave master, with his chest exposed to the cold water and the weather, many of these boys go through this experience not only at Senya Beraku but in other fishing communities. The question to ask is, if it is estimated that more than 1,000 Ghanaian children are working as slave laborers on boats in fishing communities in the country, to what extent are these minors and teenagers going to bear the brunt of undesirable treatment and hazardous jobs? How well are these children of the land protected under the laws of human rights? For GBC 24, Ofeyiwa Dako, Senya Beraku.
Indeed, there's quite a heart-wrenching issue that needs to be addressed. This has been another episode of My Journey, which highlights how child trafficking, an inhuman act, is devastating to the development and well-being of children at Senya Beraku.